Welcome to Construct Tech TV. Today on Tech Update, I'm going to be counting down the top 5 greenest cities in the U.S. So this comes from the annual Green Building Adoption Study conducted by CBRE and the MasTech University. So for the past 4 years, they've been researching this new green race among American cities. Each of these cities is chosen based on the percentage of buildings certified within their city. So the amount of commercial and residential transactions involving green certified buildings was also a pretty key factor in deciding which shade of green every city was awarded. Whether it's retrofitting or creating a new building from the ground up, they are on a mission to lay claim to more sustainable infrastructure. So do you know which cities are the greenest? So let's get ready as I unveil who deserves the bragging rights for the greenest city in America. Coming in at number 5 is Minneapolis, St. Paul. One of its claims to the green fame is the way it deals with excessive rain. Now what's interesting is I want you to keep in mind is this is just one example, but the Minneapolis Convention Center does something pretty neat here, which I found interesting, is that it installed a new stormwater storage system. And this consists of several 10 and 11 foot diameter pipes underneath the center's marshalling yard. So it collects water from 10 acres of the building's roofs, along with streams that run off from the Mississippi River. All in all, these pipes can hold 250,000 gallons of water that can be used to irrigate landscaped areas. Salvaging this water makes it easier on riverfront businesses and redirects polluted water away from all the public. It's nice to see Minneapolis-St. Paul turning the tide in green building. Coming in at number 4, we head south to Houston. It has set its sights on revitalizing office buildings for the younger generation. Business owners want a modern, high-tech place to work and a place that is environmentally friendly. One place aiming to do this is the Greenhouse Office Building. The name sells itself. The 5-story building is positioned on the western edge of the city's Energy Corridor submarket. The 2-story lobby takes advantage of natural lighting. It also has innovative wastewater technologies and measurement and verification of tenant submetering. Now that's what you can call savings. You have to check out the courtyard that is only complemented by green retail developments. This will surely keep workers coming back year after year. At number 3, we have Atlanta, and here the city is letting nothing go to waste. And that was surely evident at the Grace United Methodist Church upgrade. The 29,000 square foot North building is now looking reborn. High-performing energy and water-saving systems have been installed to improve indoor and outdoor quality. This has allowed for the reopening of administrative offices and training spaces to keep the almost 200-year-old ministry going. The church has also set its sights on reconstructed second-story passage that will connect the north and south building. Ministry officials hope this will set the precedent for other churches to give back to the environment. While Atlanta fell right in the middle of this year's top 5 list, it certainly is eyeing that top spot for the future. In my research, this is what I found. Some pretty interesting projects for the horizon of the city. One in particular might help tip the scale for Atlanta. The Living Building at the Georgia Tech is set to be one of the most sustainable buildings in Atlanta when it opens in 2019. That sounds pretty peachy to me. Back in 1967, San Francisco was the unofficial capital of the hippie movement. 50 years later, it seems that flower power has evolved to award the city among the country's greenest and the number 2 spot. Today, the Bay Area is aiming to become another hub for innovation. Here, the Perkins and Will offices provide tenants with the creative spaces they need and the sustainability they want. When daylight illuminates the workplace, electric lighting is minimized through the use of sensors. Now, how's that for tech and efficiency? Way to go, San Francisco. Topping the list for the greenest for 2017 is, of course, the Windy City in Chicago. Chicago has long been an innovator in sustainable buildings with the introduction of the rooftop gardens above its own City Hall. These rooftop gardens lowered urban heat, improved air quality, and even helped with rain absorption. You can even argue that it gives the Ivy at Wrigley Field a run for its money. Yet this year, commercial buildings such as the Sullivan Center are going green in their own way. This historic building, which has retail and office space, received a modern touch with revamped and stronger architecture. The project has water performance measurement and even emissions reduction reporting, just to name a few. Also, gotta love the new recycling initiatives and the green tips it's offering workers on how they can save energy on even the small tasks they perform every day. So whether you call it the Windy City, the city on the lake, or the blues capital, you can now add the title of the greenest city to that growing list. So there you have it, your top 5 green cities for 2017. Did your city make the list? That's your tech update for today. It's no surprise that large trucks entering and leaving a job site put workers at risk. As a result, everything on the job site is becoming programmed to enable efficiency, improve safety, and even save energy. So can trucks really do the same? It's an interesting question. So automated trucks will be here before we know it to keep us safe at the job site. Here to tell us what we can expect is Samantha Schwartz, Marketing and Business Development Director at Royal Truck and Equipment. Samantha, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be on.
Samantha, let's talk about what's happening in construction and all the different things right now. Let's talk a little bit about the attenuator truck and the trends that are happening there right now.
Sure. It's an interesting trend because the highways seem to be more dangerous than ever before, just because people are more distracted. There's more texting and driving going on. So you see this shift to these unmanned technologies or automatic braking capabilities on the highway. So we're seeing attenuator trucks not only become smarter, and our owner, Rob Roy, always says we try to make a dumb truck smart with these attenuator trucks by hooking on radar technology to other different technology, just because we can't control what the people are doing out there in their cars, but we're going to try to really make that work zone safer.
Let's talk about really what is that, because when you and I have had conversations in the past, I was fascinated about actually what an attenuator truck is, and I'm sure for our construction guys, they get it, but for anyone else who might turn into the show who might not know, let's talk about what a driver does to actually put his or her life actually on the spot to actually protect other construction workers when they're in an attenuator truck in times like that.
Yeah, it's not a job I would want to do, Peggy.
That's right.
Yikes. When I started working in the industry, it's really interesting when I found out what this truck does and that this company builds these type of trucks. But it is meant to be in construction zones only. It can be an under 45 mile an hour construction zone or over 45 miles an hour. What we see typically is kind of over 45 miles an hour. So you're out on the highway with cars that are going 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. Interestingly enough, you have workers that are working to either paint lines or fill potholes on the road, which our construction audience knows that. But for anyone else, you're flying right by that work zone and you're pissed off because you're trying to get to work and there's traffic and there's orange cones, but we're trying to make those roads safe. Now, this truck, a TMA, which stands for Truck Mounted Attenuator Truck, is supposed to be parked behind the workers, okay? So when the cars are coming flying down the highway, if someone happens to veer right behind those orange cones, which happens all the time, they're actually going to hit the back of this attenuator truck. Now, the definition from Webster's Dictionary of attenuation or attenuator is to absorb an impact. So this crash cushion, which goes through a ton of testing, actually absorbs the impact of all the way up to a semi-truck okay, that would run into the work zone. So Peggy, if your brother or your husband or kids or anything were working out on the highway, painting that line, they're going to hear a crash, but it's not going to run over them, right? It's going to run over, or it's going to run into that truck.
Every time I hear you say that, and you've told me this, it creeps me out, because the idea of that absorbing that impact, and we hear that there are so many accidents right now, and we're talking about August being one of the highly increased times of the year that there are accidents on roadways with our construction zones. So when we talk about, and they're absorbing these hits, and that's what you just described, that we're not doing enough, but how do we get people, drivers, our construction zones safer? Because these attenuator trucks, these TMAs that you just described are there, but how do we do it to keep them safer? But now we're talking about autonomously doing things more, and you guys are introducing new things to try to help it so that our drivers aren't at risk.
Yes, it's a crazy world, and I was actually just talking on Friday about this to our owner. Minnesota Department of Transportation, there was a massive news article that just came out where a gentleman, and he's in this news article, sitting in an attenuator truck, and he literally, behind him, in his rearview mirror, sees a semi-truck barreling down towards him. He grabs his hand onto the wheel, and he says in this news article that he closes his eyes and just thinks of his kids. That is scary. So your job is, you're saying to yourself, I hope this truck is built right. I hope it's built properly, because this semi is about to run into me right now. And he got care flighted out. The TMA truck driver, thank God he lived. The semi truck was a Mountain Dew bottle. He went to reach for that underneath, swerved into the work zone. That Mountain Dew bottle got caught under his brake, and he could not stop. So we can't control what drivers are doing out there, but able to take that driver who has 4 kids at home, okay, take him out of that truck, okay, and save him and make the work zone safer in that sense. That's what we're trying to do here at Royal.
So, and that's what the next evolution of this, let's talk about that, because that's what I was saying, because that idea that someone says, I know this truck is coming, I see it, but I'm holding onto the wheel, is a frightening fact. But now we need to do that where we know we're trying to protect, you know, the lives of those at the work zone. But now we have to get to this next level that we don't put someone's life at risk for the lives of others. We have to do the next thing, and that's what you guys are doing. You're testing this next evolution of technology. That's what's exciting. Let's talk about that.
Sure, it's amazing. We are working with Colas as a company in Europe, and next month we are going to be launching live for the first time on an American highway. The first actual test, it's going to be a striping operation, and that launch is going to be in mid-August. I can't announce the Department of Transportation right now, but we can announce that it's also Colas in London who's going to be working with us. What this technology is we've worked with Kratos Defense System. They have basically made unmanned vehicles for decades for the military and for the government. What they've done is basically taken that technology, upfitted it right into an attenuator truck, which you could literally upfit right into your own vehicle, Peggy. It's not built from the ground up, so this truck isn't $2 million. It is literally upfitted right in so that the driver is now going to be driving that truck to the work zone. He's going to flip a switch, which the testing was just done in London. I mean, it's been going on for about the past year. But he flips a switch, and the truck becomes autonomous. He now gets out of the truck. He walks to that now, lead vehicle. He gets in, and now his sole job is to be in that safe vehicle up front. Remember, they're setting cones off of a pattern truck and monitoring that vehicle that's following behind him. So it's all GPS technology. If a dog or a baby runs out into the front of that truck, it is going to automatically stop, but it is still following in that buffer zone. So you want to be about 175 to 200 feet away from that shadow or the lead vehicle. And it's going to follow right there, right on track, plus minus 1 inch, which is unbelievable.
And it's exciting, though. I mean, what gets you most excited about this? I know we're running out of time, but just tell me, Samantha, is the idea that you've got this new product that's going to save lives? Is it because you're going to keep your driver safe, or all of the above when you think about the next evolution of technology?
It's scary to think about, but the most exciting for us here at Royal, our owner's wife, Pam, she comes into the office and she goes out to the mechanics that are working in the shop and she goes, just remember, guys, we're saving lives today. And it's funny because they laugh at her, but it's true. We're building these trucks now with this next wave for the ability for Oregon alone, who just released a study that they last year had 7 actual deaths from a TMA truck driver in their work zone. To eliminate that person gets to come home to their family, 7 people, 1 state alone, that it literally gives me butterflies. It's amazing.
Samantha, we loved having you on the show. I hope you'll come back. We appreciate all your time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Peggy.
Thank you. All right, that's our safety zone for today. Is your business at risk? Enterprise BYOD is becoming more common. It's otherwise known as bring your own device. By the end of this year, Gartner predicts half of all employers will require workers to supply their own device. This will cut costs and improve employee satisfaction. But will it? If your data is breached, you could have a big mess on your hands. If you know me, security is a top concern, and we talk about it all the time here at Construct Tech Magazine. And having workers use their own devices puts your data at risk, and it puts your company at risk. Now, I'm not naive. BYOD is here, and we all know it. Employees bring all their devices to work every day, and it's clearly going to be here for a very long time, and it offers some very good opportunities. But I'm suggesting you need to proceed with caution. So today I thought it would be a really great idea if we did something a little unique, and I want to give you some of my tips for what you need to consider for BYOD. So first, I want you to think about creating a policy. Employees need to follow a certain set of rules. So let's start with be specific. Your BYOD policy should include some type of devices, security of the data, experience for the user, and management of the corporate information. So next, I want you to think about putting someone in charge. I know it's very hard, but you need to think about making sure someone on your team is responsible for overseeing all of the policies that you put in place. They can also manage and support the security and the data plans that you have. They need to enforce the rules. Now, sometimes this is very tricky because this individual needs to be responsible for dictating to all of the team members. That's very, very important to think about. Now, third, I think you need to think about this next one, and it's probably the most important. It's about education. Make sure you educate and train all of your employees. Just like everything else you do at the job site, education is probably one of the most important steps. Warn everyone about risky Wi-Fi networks and downloading third-party apps, because everybody always does it all the time. They download all these third-party apps. Encourage team members to back up their personal data in case a device needs to be remotely wiped for security purposes. Better yet, separate the data altogether. That's probably your best tip of all. So this next tip for you today is device management and provisioning is what I should say. And there are a lot of ways to do this. First, consider this dual persona or mobile app management. I always encourage companies to think about this because this provisioning and maintenance of 2 separate end user environments on a single device is pretty easy in some ways. And I agree there's a lot of different separations here, but it's a good option for someone that wants to take that extra step. As you know, you think about it, good fences make good neighbors. I bet Robert Frost wasn't thinking about BYOD when he wrote those words, but it certainly does apply when creating best practices for managing data and mobile devices. Similarly, sandboxing is another good option for separating data. This is when application is running on an isolation on a device. And these are only 2 examples, and there's so many others when you think about it. And I think my next tip I want you to think about is strategies for security. I know a lot of companies don't want to think about this, but you need to answer a lot of these questions that I'm going to pose to you right now. How are you handling licensing? Are there special tools added to the device? How are you going to support them? Do you have mobile virtualization for your company? Have you even thought about it? What are your practices for your device if it even gets hacked, or if your company deals with a hacker? These are important questions you need to consider. Also, don't rely on your employees to create strong passwords, because we all know that could be a problem. set up multi-factor authentication to enhance your security. It's really important, and require that they use security software all the time. You might even consider location tracking software. I know employees aren't thrilled about that. Finally, I want to leave you with this one final thought. Who owns the data? Clearly, identifying and answering all this up front can help eliminate legal issues in the future. After all, good fences make good neighbors. That's our top tips for today. Prefabrication is proving to be a popular alternative to assembling everything all at once in the same location. Think Legos. Small portions packaged and worked on separately make it much more efficient to putting together the final product. Yet still, some organizations are not completely sold on off-site construction. Are they simply not realizing the benefits? Are there cost and implementation issues? Or is there something else holding them back? Here to address all of this is Farzad Rahimian, Senior Lecturer in Building Information Management at the University of Strathclyde, Glasgow. Farzad, welcome to the show.
Hi, Peggy. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about offsite. How long has been a little bit of the history of offsite?
Yeah, offsite, looking at historically, I would say it's quite an ancient method of construction because it's been used in very ancient contexts like China, Persia, and Greece. But as a modern term, under the umbrella of modern methods of construction, offsite is quite a new term. Started post First and Second World War, and it was a method of construction having some parts of construction in factory environment and transporting the building components to building site and assembling that. That's why we just call it offsite, because some parts of the building is built offsite and transported to the construction site, as opposed to in situ construction, which is 100% undertaken on the construction site.
So what actually are the benefits when you look at offsite?
Offsite has quite a few benefits in different aspects. If we look at it from people, technology, and process points of view, offsite has different kinds of benefits. The most important benefit of offsite is the pace of construction. By moving some of the activities to factory and having the chance to get them done in parallel to some activities on site, like site preparation, excavation for foundation, and other activities on site, we have chance to complete the building components in the factory in parallel and move them to construction site. So we are saving a lot of time, and it speeds up the construction process. But at the same time, offsite has very good impact in contribution to reducing environmental impact of construction because of minimizing waste, because everything is in factory environment. As we know, construction waste contributes to 40% of municipal waste in developed and developing countries, which is a lot. And offsite has the great chance to contribute to minimization of that waste. Offsite contributes to health and safety and well-being of the workers. At the same time, offsite can contribute to better product, which ends up with better, more reliable buildings which can last for longer time, and better energy efficiency and better performance in use. These are the main benefits of offsite.
So are we seeing that then, in what type of places are we seeing it practiced then? Because we're not seeing a lot of it here. Are we seeing it in other countries? What are we seeing it then?
Yeah, offsite has been practiced in many different contexts, the developed countries as well as developing countries. We have good practice of offsite in America. It's called different term for it. It's called modular building. It's been practiced very well in Southeast Asia and Asia, in countries like Japan, China, Singapore, Malaysia. It has had some good contribution in developing countries like Nigeria, New Zealand, and Malaysia, as well as some European countries. UK has been quite active in offsite, and Nordic countries have been very good. Australia has had a lot of good attempts for offsite.
You're talking about all the great benefits. There must be some barriers to some of this implementation, or we'd see a lot more of this, right?
Yes, actually, I'm a scientific officer of CIB W121 Working Commission, which is specialized in offsite. When we talk to people from different contexts, the main barrier no matter which context they are from, the main barrier for offsite is the bad perception of people about offsite, in which case I would say offsite has been victim of countries trying to use offsite to produce some quick solutions after disasters and wars, especially after Second and First World War. When offsite is being used as a quick solution for addressing people's urgent need, people always had in mind that offsite means cubic, concrete, ugly buildings, which is totally wrong. Other barriers to offsite can be the huge capital value of the technology to be in place for offsite. Workers' training is one of the main barriers for offsite, and also the infrastructure, especially the roads and the transportation system, is one of the greatest barriers for offsite.
So when you talk, sometimes it has this negative perception, but there's a lot of things it can contribute, and that's why now in its growth, you're seeing it in VR and visualization. So it's grown to actually contribute to a lot of the new technology. Would that be correct?
Yes, of course. VR and digitalization, and as well as BIM, are great opportunities for construction industry to train people to change their perception by showing them, promoting offsite solutions to them. And one of the main reasons offsite again have fallen in different contexts is that people cannot, when designers are not sitting together with the end users, usually the product that they get is far different from their initial perception. But by use of VR and technologies like that, people now have chance to interact with the designers and producer, even if they are not close to each other, but they can interact in virtual environment. Again, by BIM contribution, the integration is not an issue anymore. Design for manufacturing and assembly is another growing area in offsite. By help of BIM and Lean thinking is again great opportunity. All of this wouldn't happen without the opportunity given by digital IT and VR and technologies like BIM.
Farzad, thank you so much for being with us today. You've really opened our eyes into where technology is headed and all these things with offsite. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for your time. Great opportunity for me.
All right, that's our innovation in technology for today. Welcome to Got a Tool. Accurate measurements are essential to construction projects, and as any great contractor knows that. But the tools are changing with the advent of Bluetooth and apps. So today I thought I would look at one new laser distant measure. Now we've done these before, but what I have here is the DeWalt 30-foot pocket laser distant measure. And as you can see, it is super small, and it has a rechargeable lithium-ion battery. And I'm going to take it out. We've already tested this, and I wanted you to see what the packaging is because it's super small. And my staff and I have already looked at it, and we've received kind of mixed feelings on the staff. Some of the younger guys think it's nice and easy, it's small, you could just throw it in your pocket. Some of the rest of us have kind of felt like, well, why would you do something this small? But as DeWalt told us, it's kind of an impulse buy. But I'm kind of one of these people that said, well, why wouldn't you just go with the larger one? Because there's so many great things. But as DeWalt shared with us, it can reach 30 feet, and it's nice and easy. So if you're like a painter, or you're doing some HVAC, this might work really well. So if you like put it down and you just put it on right there, as you could see, you can get a measurement, and it's giving me a measurement right now that I'm getting of a little over 5 feet, I think, and 1 5/8. So I'm getting a nice little measurement. But if you were kind of using like a tape measure like Dan's going to do here, it kind of saves if you're kind of doing something quick and easy. The tape measure is kind of a pain because as you can see, you're doing that. That's what you do with the tape measure. But an impulse buy at $19.99, it's very affordable. But I would look at, like, I would say, why wouldn't you buy something that, like DeWalt has one that's $99. You can get Bluetooth enabled. It gives you 100 feet of laser distance. But they didn't send us that one. But with that one has a lot of cool capabilities. For $80 more, it connects to Bluetooth. It connects to their apps. It gives you can store all these measurements. You can mark up photos. You can save them to the app. As I said, it goes up to 100 feet, and you can calculate area and volume, historical measurements for reference. So I think for business, to me, I think that's so much more important. Wouldn't you think, Dan, when we talked about this before?
Well, it would be a lot better for commercial projects. They're a lot larger. You get just something quick, order a distance for it, and so.
I mean, that's what I'm looking. I'm thinking when you're looking at all these things, I think that's what I would like. But some of the guys in the office said, look, nice and easy, quick, put in your pocket. They liked it. So we have a lot of mixed emotions in our team about this. So it depends what you want. An impulse buy, perfect opportunity. You want something for more, you're doing bigger projects, you go for the bigger one that DeWalt has. So that's our Got a Tool for today.
This segment is sponsored by PROCORE Technologies.
Can you pass the test for digging? All right, let's see. So if you're an excavator or a contractor, this segment is for you. So get out your pen and paper. So it's time to see if you can pass my test. So the first question, what is 811? Now, August 11th just passed. Do you know what that day represents? Now, put down your pens. August 11th is the National Safe Digging Day. But even more important than that, 811 is the number you need to call before you dig. So if you work in the construction industry or if you're doing some work at home, this applies just to you. So think about that. Now I have another question for you. Do you know how much damage is done to an underground utility lines if you don't call before you dig? Now I want you to give that a few seconds to think about. Damage is done every 6 minutes. In the time you watch this episode, 5 people will have done damage to an underground utility line. Now, that's alarming. I know every time I think about that, that makes me nervous. So make sure you call 811 a few days before you dig. Now, this will help improve safety at your construction site, certainly at your home, right? So when you call, make sure you do the following or provide the following information. You provide a phone number, the address of the property inside or whether it's outside city limits, if the property is in a subdivision, the name of the intersecting streets, and the exact area to locate when you begin the project, because they're going to come mark it. So it's really that simple. Call that number. Now what is it? 811. Give that information, and you will prevent any unnecessary damage. And if you want to study more, head over to www.call811.com. And remember, be safe when you dig. And that's your Learn It for today.
This segment is sponsored by OnCenter Software.
Takeoff. That's our word of the day. So if you're a seasoned construction professional, you've heard this many times. But for younger workers, this concept might be hard to grasp. So either way today, I just might challenge all of you with a whole new way of thinking. So let's start with the very basics. Takeoff is the cost estimating process. Estimators use it for blueprints to take off quantities. So this includes all the steel, the wood, the fixtures needed in a structure. So in the past, this was a very tedious process. Why? Because takeoff requires the counting of the number of items to determine all the costs. So the good news is we've got all this technology that can help do this in a fraction of the time. Now I know all of you are going, isn't that great? So today, estimating and takeoff software improve the accuracy of all the bids on a job site. So for an estimator, you can produce this work very quickly today. So the good news is technology is advancing. And in the past, systems were often only done on-premise. But today, software is moving to the cloud. So this enables multiple users to access the same data, which what does it do? It improves productivity. But I think the software does so much more than that today. It also helps train the next generation. And you heard me correctly, technology is the next solution in solving the generation gap. And all too often, this knowledge resides in the minds of all of this past generation. But now it can be shared. And this is where the future is headed. So takeoff. That's your word of the day. So thanks for watching Construct Tech TV, where we are talking tech at the job site.